From the pulpit to the people. We're back, episode 2. If you saw episode 1, you know, man, we had a lot to talk about with this COVID-19 situation, and I'm just so appreciative for these pastors who are taking their time just to touch people, to give insight and inspiration. So we're back for episode 2, from the pulpit to the people. Man, I'm excited to have my people with me tonight. Returning once again, the heavyweight champion of the world, Pastor Blake Wilson. Crossover Bible Fellowship. Thank you, Pastor Wilson. I appreciate you being here, brother.
I appreciate it.
And coming back like they never left before, the Berkeleys, Pastors David and Cassandra Berkeley, Fellowship of Faith, better known as the Ship. Welcome.
What's going on?
Good evening. Good evening.
Nothing. All is well. All is well. How's life treating y'all good folks these days?
I noticed that you called me the heavyweight champion. You didn't call me like flyweight or middleweight. Are you trying to say something?
No, Pastor. Well,
you trying to say something?
That's the top notch. That's the top notch. That's the king of the ring.
All right. You see how he do me, Berkeley?
I heard him sign heavyweight. I wasn't going to say nothing about that part.
Let me make it. But on this episode 2, we're talking about the parent trap. And when we talk about this parent trap, we're just talking about how the enemy is coming to kill, steal, and destroy. We know with this COVID-19, things have switched up, they're changed. Parents are now having to not only homeschool, but they're having to be counselors, cafeteria worker, the PE coach, recess, the whole 9 yards. And then for our kids, just being out of school, just breaking up their structure, their normalcy, and just that dynamic of what's going on in the household now that things have changed. And so we're going to jump into this thing. And so my first question is, now that we're talking about this new dynamic with our parents and our kids, just how do we figure out a way that they don't fall into a trap of anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed, for our parents having to be perfect when there are only limited resources? So whoever wants to take it, go for it. Sis,
let the Berkeleys go first. I'll come in second.
Ladies first. We're going to start with Pastor Cassandra.
I think a lot of things actually come to mind when I think about that. One thing I think is important for parents to, like you said, recognize that they are not perfect. Right. Like, you have to take off that hat that the world may try to put on you, the pressure of you're a mom, you're a dad, so you should do A, B, C, and D. I think it's important for everyone to come up with a plan that works for their household, because every plan is not going to work for everyone. And so we have to be encouraging to one another and recognize as well that it's okay to rest. I've heard a lot of parents that's like, well, I got to teach, I got to do my job, I got to cook, I got to clean, I got to do all these things. And, it's okay to rest. You don't have to feel like you're less than, that you're not a good parent, that you're not a good employee. There is just a lot going on right now, and I think it's important for parents to release and recognize that release the pressure that they're putting on themselves, or that they're allowing other people to put on them.
Yeah. Good.
And so how do we get parents to understand that? Because I've heard a lot of parents, as you stated, talk about this is a whole different dynamic. Their appreciation for teachers has gone through the roof. I've heard parents already talking about, when Teacher Appreciation Day come, just say what you want, it's yours. And so when we're talking about this newfound pressure that they're experiencing, and we talked about this a little bit offline, some households just don't have the means or the resources. So what do we do in those situations? Pastor Wilson?
Well, let me address one thing from the previous question. As we talk about the anxiety issue or just getting a house under proper administration, we deal with the realities of the parents, whether it's a 2-parent household, 1-parent household. There's an intense level of pressure on everyone that's involved in this new environment, because 4 to 5 weeks ago, we weren't even here. And so my wife happens to be involved in a school district, KDISD. She's a psychologist, deals with the issues of autism and Asperger's, but now she's also a very gifted administrator. So she's the one that's kind of set up the structure to the kids' education. Our kids are doing online education. Our daughter's in middle school, so she's getting Zoom classroom. all that kind of stuff. Our son's elementary school, he's able to call his teacher. They do a little Zoom time twice a week with the students. But my wife, she put up the whole administrative, this is the day, this is what the day looks like, here's what's going to happen. But with that being said, the reason why I bring up my wife, my own family, is I pastor a church. So in essence, I'm trying to provide pastoral care for a congregation at this time and figure out how our members are doing. But then our children are in the home at the exact same time. Then I have a son who has asthma, although he's an athlete. And so that brings another level of heightenedness to where, as a husband, my wife's concerned about this virus because of my son's allergies and his asthma. So I think that these are the things that when we think about parents and what they're going through, as Sister Berkeley said earlier, Pastor Berkeley said earlier, is that we're in situations to where parents are trying to do the best they can, but at the exact same time have to deal with the reality of completing their job. How do you rest in the middle of the day? In a situation like I'm involved in, my wife and I, we've been at it 3 weeks now. I told her Sunday night, I said, babe, I said, we got to get the kids in an educational environment where they're asking questions. But because our kids at the exact same time are not interacting with their friends, they want to talk to us more. And so, but it's like, but we have to do jobs also. We got work and deadlines and stuff to do. So it's about how do we manage all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a level of anxiety for parents, but it's also a level of anxiety for our kids. And so I just kind of wanted to mention that. And then what was the second part of the question?
And so I wanted to throw it to you and Pastor David as both pastors yourselves. Just how do y'all deal with just our parents? Once again, they may not have the means, they may not have the technology, they may not even have the knowledge themselves, because trust me, I look at some of the way these kids are learning these days, I'm like, that's that new math. I don't know what y'all talking about. And so how do they just navigate from setting up a Zoom class and the Microsoft Teams and so forth to even being able to assist their kids? And then again, not feeling overwhelmed trying to do it.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in with two answers. One spiritual, one more pragmatic. When you talked about, I think all three of you said the word pressure. And when you said pressure, Holy Spirit immediately showed me this whole idea of an airplane. And so before God put us all on punishment, I used to fly a lot. And most of the times you get on an airplane, they tell you, hey, if there is a change in pressure,
yes, sir,
mask will jump down. And if you are with the child, before you help the child, first hook yourself up, then help them. I think the world has had a sudden change in pressure. And many parents have shifted into parent mode. And as a parent, I'm a sacrificer and I'm thinking about my kids. But like they always tell us in the airplane, before I can be effective in being the parent that I need to be, or the husband or the pastor, I first got to pick myself up to something that's going to give me life and help me breathe. Because if I'm anxious and if I'm worried and I'm stressed, it's going to cost in my parenting and my pastoring and my husband and being a mother. And in that, the spiritual component to that is the students always say, and the oxygen is going to come from above. And I think as spiritual leaders, we have to understand that our hope and our flow in this place is coming from above. And I've got to stop looking inside of myself and do like the psalmist said and lift up my eyes, because that is where my hope is coming from, and know that God has me in this situation. And once I get that anchoring of peace, then I can approach the task of whatever title that I have to deal with. Then pragmatically, I think we're many parts, but we're one body. And parents, there is nothing wrong with admitting your weakness. I think, the foot can't do what the eye can do. So if you are a parent and you say, look, I don't understand Zoom, I don't understand this, I don't understand, all these expectations, you have to open up your mouth and say, hey, can someone help me? And I'm just a firm believer that in the world, in community, in Facebook, on social media, there's someone that can help. But I think as a society and as a people, pridefulness, when we don't understand something or something isn't clear, we tend to introvert and not explain and push it away, which is antithetical to what people really need to do in this season.
Man, that's good, Pastor. That's good. And I think something that everybody touched on and that y'all talked about is how do we explain to our kids this shift? because they're used to their routine. And the thing is, we try to get our kids in a routine because it gives them structure and
Yeah.
direction. But now that there's this shift, how do we explain to them to a point that they don't feel that pressure, that they don't become depressed and start feeling that anxiety?
I think I, two things to that question. So there are parts of this that you'll be able to explain, and kids will grasp it. And then there are other components of what's going on that kids will not be able to emotionally grasp. Mm-hmm. They won't be able to spiritually grasp because it just doesn't make sense to them.
Right.
I think one of the most important things that any parent, any guardian can do in the midst of what's going on with their kids is help them to express and acknowledge their true feelings. Mm. And so there are so many tasks that they can be doing. Read a book, do your work, log into Zoom, do your homework, do these things, prepare yourself, all of these tasks that they could be doing. Yeah. However, it's important for parents to stop, take a breath, take a moment, and really sit down with the children and help them process their feelings with words. Yeah. And help them understand that it's okay to feel. And it doesn't have to be a good feeling. I think and I was raised in a household where you don't say anything back. Yeah. You don't talk back, you don't express yourself, you just sit quietly and you do what you've been told. But that type of environment can be very harmful, right, especially in times like this, because kids need to be able to say, I'm very angry right now. I'm frustrated. I'm mad at my principal. I'm mad at the governor. I'm mad at whoever they want to be mad at. They need to be able to express that, of course, in a positive and a respectful way. But there's a way for us to teach and coach our children to express themselves so that they are not building up all of this emotion that's unexpressed. And I have just a real quick illustration that came to mind. If you think about a balloon, and you blow air into the balloon, our emotions and our feelings are the air. And if you keep blowing things into that balloon, and the balloon is just this capsule or this blockage that we create, it's like, don't express yourself, don't talk, don't cry, it's gonna be okay, just trust God. And we tell them that we don't allow them to express their true feelings. Eventually, if you keep putting those emotions into that balloon and you let it go, it's gonna fly all over the place. Right. Yeah. It's gonna be chaotic, it's gonna lose control, it's gonna explode, because you are constantly packing. And it's important for parents to allow their children to release the emotional air that they are building up right now with all of the emotions that they're dealing with.
Yeah. One of the things I'd like to share on that is, in light of the reality of, I have two kids. One's a middle schooler, 7th grade, one's in 4th grade. We have what we call the ballerina and the baller. My daughter's the ballerina, my son's the baller, he's the hooper. But my daughter, as a parent, you're going to have to understand where your kids are. So my daughter gets to do classrooms where she's online in Zoom classroom, and she gets to see her classmates, gets to see her teacher. My son doesn't really get to do that. So my son, with being a baller, being an athlete, has cried more than normal. Wow. Because he doesn't see his friends. So one of the things that my wife did with all of her intelligence is she said, okay, let's do this. She said, at lunch, instead of you just coming downstairs and eating lunch by yourself, why don't you FaceTime one of your friends? So now he started having lunch where he's FaceTiming his friends during his lunch hour. We have PE. And so sometimes we can't go to the rigid schedule. I know that my son's got a lot of energy. So as a result, we're not going to wake up and just start academics sometimes. Sometimes he and I are going to go in the backyard and we're going to have PE. And I'm going to be the PE coach. We're going to throw the football. We bought a badminton net. We're going to run courses in the backyard, and we're going to do that. And we have to recognize where our kids are situationally in this thing. And as Pastor mentioned, allowing our boys to cry, allowing our boys to have tears in this situation because they're missing their friends. They love their parents, but I want to see my homie. I want to see my buddy. And so I think that there's nothing wrong. I've had to go up at night. Mama elbowed me. You go up there and you you better lay down in that bed with your son and talk to him. I said, yes, ma'am. And so I go up to, as a parent, to play my role and my part to comfort him and to dialogue with him. He called his grandparents last night, wanted to FaceTime with them. One of the grandparents couldn't answer the phone. He started crying. And so we got to recognize that our kids are under pressure because this routine has changed so much. And we as parents can't just say, boy, get it together. No, we got to right then allow him to cry and sit down and talk with him and say, okay, we're going to call him first thing in the morning. So,
yeah. And
Right.
I was thinking, because for a lot of our children, one thing I wrote in my notes as I was preparing is putting ourselves in their shoes. And for many children, they're grieving a loss. And we have to treat this like a loss. Like,
yes, sir.
I have on my timeline, I have college students. I have young men who I knew who were online and pledged who were told you can't have a probate. I know college kids who worked their butt off to get into college and told, well, you're not going to graduate. There are high school kids who, could you imagine all the work you put in to be valedictorian? You don't get to make a speech. You don't get to go to prom. You don't get to have a senior trip. Things you literally spent your entire existence to work towards that are now gone, that have been taken from you. And you could have done everything right, and now you are here. And that is a loss. That is there's a grieving process. And the steps of grieving are denial, anger, all the things, all the processes of grieving, and letting them go through that process and letting them experience it so it does not become bottled, like my wife said, and manifest into something else later on.
Right. And we talked about this. Let me jump in there real quick, Pastor Wilson. We talked about this a little bit. I saw a commercial earlier today, and the commercial started off, how do you shelter at home when your home is the sidewalk? And there's some harsh realities for some families out there. And I'll read a couple of these quotes. Someone did a survey, a school went out and did a survey of their students, just trying to check in and see how they felt. And like Pastor Cassandra was talking about, students given the opportunity to express themselves. And these are some of the comments. It's kind of hard. Home isn't the best place for me to be, but I can't go anywhere else. My mom still has to work at the hospital. Even when she's home, I still can't see her. It's scary. I'm worried I'm going to fail school because I have to help the younger ones. And so we have, as both of y'all have talked about, we have anywhere from elementary school to college students having to take on adult responsibilities now because of the situations that they're put in. How can we encourage them and just let them know that it's going to be all right? Pastor Wilson?
Well, I think that one of the things that we have not done as a Christian society is raise kids of responsibility. Let me explain what I mean by that. In 2 Chronicles chapter 34, Josiah became king at 8 years old. He took over the responsibility of a kingdom at 8 years old. In Daniel chapter 1, those guys are 15 to 18 years old, and they have to lead out. So I think that we have to, number one, teach our kids about their giftedness to lead, their abilities to lead, their abilities to, at this unique hour, to step up and to serve in the family. However, it's not a situation that they would have volunteered themselves for. It's not something that they would have just wanted to do because they would rather be just students. But we have to let them know that God is developing something unique in them at this hour, and not just developing, pulling out of them something that's already in them. We have to recognize that God causes all things to work together for good. We recognize that. But at the exact same time, God is pulling out uniquely of children and kids what's already in you and doing it at a very unique stage in life, to where he's calling them into leadership, into servant, helping brothers and sisters. I see my son taking lunch upstairs to his sister. He's in the 4th grade, but he's downstairs saying, okay, sister needs lunch. I just had lunch. She's in her classroom, and he'll go upstairs, knock on her door, and put it at the door because she's actually in class, and lay it there for her to come get it, and then walk downstairs. So I just think that they're gonna learn things about service. I think they're gonna learn things about leadership and their very own characters. So
yeah, and I think you let them walk. I think like Pastor Wilson said, you let them walk in this season and their gifts and their abilities. I think one very important, acknowledging how they feel. Like you wanted to be on campus. You wanted to be at school. You wanted to play basketball. You wanted to do your dance, whatever it is. Let's first acknowledge that you don't want to be here, and that is a fair feeling. And then the place we're in, and then now I think once we walk from a place of transparency, then we can kind of walk into those roles. I saw a member of our church, her daughters were doing hair, doing box braids or something like that, and they did a great job. And it was their first time doing it. And I think, while structure is good, I think also at this time that, I don't let the home be the home still. You know what I'm saying? Let the home be the place of growth and enjoyment and of fun. And as much as possible, that, if mom has to work and she's a single mother, there are some realities you have to face. But as parents, as much as possible, keep some of that weight off of you, and let you not have to walk in such a heavy role if I don't have to, and if I have that, if I have that ability. And for those people who say, man, it's just a resource issue, like you said, if home is a sidewalk, then start reaching out to agencies and looking for places where there's so much assistance out there. But so many people that I meet every single day are still not aware of the opportunities and the resources that are out there. And because churches are not, at arm's length anymore, because so many agencies aren't really taking people in like they used to, a lot of opportunities are not being shared. But there is help. There is assistance to help families in this time, and start utilizing those. And there is nothing wrong, with getting help in this season so that we can relieve some of that pressure off our kids.
Yeah. And I think it's important as well. Definitely we have to give the children time to process, time to deal with their emotions and their feelings. But I also think as we see them beginning to process those things and express themselves, we also want to encourage them to focus forward, to begin to look at what is coming next. And so you can get so stuck in what's happening right now that you lose focus of the great things that you were looking forward to before. I've said in sermons before, and I've heard other people say, don't forget in the darkness what God told you in the light. And so for a lot of our kids, they've had scholarship promises, they've had trip promises, they've had all of these promises, and they got those promises when it was light. And now it's dark and it's difficult to see or to remember those things. But it's important for us to bring them back to those spaces and say, these things can still happen. These things will happen. They may look a little different. And they may not feel the same, but there are some things to look forward to. And I think it's important for us to encourage our kids to think about those things and process those things, and even, work as families to create positive memories right now.
Yes.
Even though this is a very bleak time, I can just think of moments with my 2-year-old where we've just been sitting around the house and she'll do something and it's directly connected to what's going on, and it creates this opportunity to do something different or alter the way that I interact with her, and to create some different memories, some positive memories, even in the midst of a situation that doesn't feel positive at all.
And I think that's some great points that y'all are making out. Go ahead, Pastor Wilson.
Let me jump in and say something.
Yes, sir.
I think that while our kids manage responsibility, we also have to provide them the opportunity to have some fun. And so I think that as parents, I'd like to encourage parents to, while our kids are doing some serving, helping little sisters, helping brothers and sisters do things and leading and serving, I think at the exact same time, we have to take advantage of this time that's so unique that we'll never have again. And so let some of the kids in the family choose an activity for the family to do. Let them choose a fun activity. So if they want to play this game or they want to play that with the family, and to where we acknowledge their service, we acknowledge their leadership, and then they choose something fun for us to do. And, so I think that that's important, is making sure in our home, we've been watching some historical African-American movies each night, trying to let our kids understand the struggle, and they've really enjoyed that. But at the exact same time, we got a badminton net outside that lights up, and we're hitting the badminton ball. After this call tonight, I'll be in the backyard hitting badminton with my son and playing Connect Four. We bought a big gigantic Connect Four for the family. So we got to do some things to take advantage of this time to allow those kids to have fun as well as manage responsibilities.
And we're thinking the same thing because that's what I was going to touch on. Break up the monotony. Yes, I
Yeah.
know what the outside world may look like, but if you have anything, you have control of what your inside world looks like. And if we just find those ways not only to reconnect, but make it fun. Like Pastor Cassandra said, we may not have the trips and all these lavish plans that we once thought about, but guess what? There's board games, there's cards, all educational at the same time too. So we can make it fun inside the house. But what I want to segue to, and Pastor Cassandra talked on it a little bit, is just that mindset of the light still permeating even in a dark time. We know about our graduating seniors, whether they're graduating from high school or graduating from college. My goddaughter and a lot of friends of mine, their kids. Um, Saw one friend post the other day, they received their son's senior announcement. As happy as she was to see that senior announcement, it broke her heart knowing that our son's senior year has drastically changed. And so, how do we uplift our parents, encourage our kids, and just again show them that even in this too shall pass, but it's all working together for the good of God?
I think you gotta, you have to be future minded. One thing, we watch a lot of dramatic TV shows, and so there's a show that's on right now called Little Fires, Kerry Washington. And so I always laugh because my parents didn't let me date. My mama didn't play that. You go to church, you love Jesus. That was it. So, but talking to people like my wife, whose parents let them date, they had little boyfriends, and you think,
Telling it all.
yeah, you had little boyfriends. We don't do boyfriends, but you had little boyfriends, and in 8th grade, your boyfriend broke your heart. Oh, your world is over. Oh my God, I'm never gonna love again. I can't live, Daddy. My little boyfriend broke my heart. And as an adult, you look at him and you like, it's just 8th grade. Life goes on, and I think helping them understand as much as I got to speak at my high school graduation. I got all these awards. I got scholarships. As much as that was a major moment in my life, and now at 36, almost 37 years old, high school was like, what happened? It's such I'm past it because God has allowed me to have so many other great experiences, and encouraging them that I know this moment was supposed to be a major moment, but there are going to be so many more. And if you keep pressing forward, you'll see that the 10th grade thing you missed is nothing compared to the college homecoming that you're going to get to go to. And you can't just get caught right here, because if you get stuck here, you'll miss there. And you keep giving them that message.
I also think this is a unique moment in history. My wife and I have been talking to our kids about the future from a distant future perspective, saying that literally when the history books are written 50 years from now, and the history books are written 100 years from now, our kids that are in elementary school, like my son will turn 10 next Wednesday. Lord willing, he'll be 60, 50 years from now. And if that's the case, he will be in that era where he's explaining to his grandkids, Dad lived through this COVID-19 era. Grandpa lived through this COVID-19 era. And so at this unique point in time in history, we're here. We're at this moment. We can't stop it, but we have to embrace it. And as we embrace it, we recognize, why did God have us here at this moment, at this time, and how are we to change history in light of it? And so I think that that's one of the things to deal with the responsibility of now, deal with the responsibility of what has God called us to in this moment, to move past this moment, and to also look into the future at how God is going to use us because we were developed by this moment.
Yeah. And do y'all remember, I don't know, most people will remember, when I was in elementary school, we were dealing with that whole Cuban Missile Crisis situation.
Oh yeah.
They have these drills in the middle of the day. Everybody would have to run and get under your desk. It was crazy because we always have these drills like, oh man, we're about to get blown up by Russia. And it was really weird. But now as I look back on it, it was just a moment we went through that we did not really fully understand at that age. But when we go back, it was just something we experienced, and we just have to encourage our children, like, this is a phase of life. This is something you will look back on and say, I remember when that happened. And this too is gonna pass, and you just can't get stuck in the moment that you're in.
Yeah.
And so if either of y'all can talk directly to that senior right now, We're gonna put the parents on the side for a moment. But that senior that's quiet, sitting in their room, like, man, I missed out on prom. I'm missing graduation. I'm missing senior skip out day, senior trip, the whole walking across the stage, getting a diploma. If we can talk directly to that senior right now who has all of this bottled up and does not know what to do, what would y'all tell them?
You want to go first? Well, I'll start to the senior who missed out that awesome stuff first. That sucks, and I am sorry. And I could not imagine what it must feel like to have lost all these great experiences that you were prepared for, and you deserve to experience. And I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. But what I can guarantee you is that nothing lasts forever. And the world will get back to normal. And as amazing as prom would have been, and as amazing as those memories would have been that you deserve to have, that God has so many more great things in store.
Yes, sir.
In fact, God promises you in His Word that your latter, which simply means the things to come, will be greater than your past, which means the things that you have missed and have already experienced. And so, although it's not what you want to hear, it's what you have to believe. And so, therefore, we don't walk by things we see, we don't walk by what we feel, but we walk by what we believe. And I have to believe what God said about that.
There was a 17-year-old guy in the Bible by the name of Joseph, and Joseph ended up missing a lot because he had a tragic moment come into his life. His brothers sold him to the Ishmaelites, tossed him down in the pit. He ends up over at Potiphar's house. Potiphar's wife lies on him. He ends up in the prison. Then he goes up, and 2 years later, after thinking it's time to get out, he ends up in Pharaoh interpreting a dream. Here was a 17-year-old senior in Genesis chapter 39 that got messed over. Yeah. And by the time he got messed over, by the time got through with him, God had him a second place in the palace. And so I think that there's a bright future ahead, and you have to hold on to the dream that God has given you and recognize that those things will come to pass. Even if they seem delayed, they're not denied. God will deliver. God will come through with his promises. And so I think it's important for us to find ourselves in the scriptures, park there, and realize that there's hope for the future. Same thing with Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, better known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They go into deportation, but their whole story is written out in the book of Daniel. So I think that you can have difficult moments that hit you, but Martin Luther King said it's those moments of difficulty that actually develop you.
Yeah. And I'll say this, and God gave me this, because if we're speaking to high school and college seniors, they're mature enough to understand that, yes, you are grieving because you have lost some things, but don't let what you've lost make you miss the fact that you are alive. That this is a disease that is killing people, that people of all ages and races are dying. They're losing their parents. They're losing people they love. They're losing people they care about that they will never see again until they get to glory. And so if you are healthy, and if your family is healthy, and if your mother and father and your brothers and sisters are healthy, yes, you have lost some things, but be grateful because you are alive. And I think that as seniors, they're mature enough to understand, yeah, it's not fair, but I thank God for my life. And I think that's an important message to not forget, that at the end of the day, there are some people who prom is the last thing they're worried about because they have a loved one on a ventilator. And it's so therefore, be thankful for the life you have, because as you walk into adulthood,
yes, sir,
you begin to understand the levels of priorities. And I might not have prom, but I got my parents, or I got my brothers, or I got
amen.
And you shouldn't discount that. Yes, prom, you lost prom, and that sucks, but don't discount the fact that you have your life, you have a home to live in, you have food to eat, and thank God for that. Focus, the Bible says, and think on these things, and focus your mind to what you have. You probably got a cell phone, you probably got Jordans. If you begin to focus on all the things that God has blessed you with, it will lessen the blow of some of the things that you lost.
Yeah. Pastor Cassandra, please help us out.
And I was just gonna say, I wanna speak to the senior that was already dealing with not having. The senior that was already, who was with a single parent, or who just lost a parent, or who was already dealing with some difficult things, who was already dealing with their only meal being the meal that they had at school. Because every person that's going through this right now is going through it from a different perspective. And there are some seniors who, for them, this was the last blow.
Yes.
This was, okay, I tried this. This happened to me. This happened to me. I lost this. I lost this. And now you're telling me I'm losing the rest of my senior year, or now you're telling me I'm not going to do the one thing that was going to bring a smile to my face this year. And to that person, I want to say, don't give up. Yeah. Keep pushing. I know you may want to throw in the towel, and you may feel like throwing in the towel because it seems like nothing is working. But I want you to keep pushing. I want you to reach out for help. I want you to talk to someone. I want you to know that you are not alone. There is a term that we use in the therapy world called normalizing. Yeah. And normalizing means you help a person to see that they're not the only person going through it. And so I think it's important, for you senior to know you're not alone, that what you're feeling is normal, what you're feeling is natural. And I want to encourage you to be bold, to be open, and seek the help that you need, because we are here. You have support, you have people that are willing to walk with you through this. And just know that even though it may not look like it, there is something greater to come. But in order to get to that greater, you got to hang in there. You got to keep pushing, and you can't give up.
Yeah. And pastors, I want to throw this out to y'all. Just based on what all of y'all have said, and one of the questions that came through is from a student. And that student is I'm in the home with my mother only. She's already struggling with this situation. I can't bring more to her. Where do I go from here? Who can I talk to?
One of the, and I know we might get to this later, but I want to touch on this whole idea of therapy and counseling and support. In the African American community, it is definitely more acceptable now to seek therapy and to seek counseling and to seek help. It's definitely more acceptable, but it's still shunned upon in many instances, in many areas. And so I think it's important for those that are listening to know that it's okay. There's nothing shameful about telling someone that you need someone to talk to. There's nothing shameful about being real about your situation. I was raised in poverty. We lived in shelters. I had to work in high school to make sure I was able to pay for my robe and pay for my senior dues and all of those different types of things. So I know what it feels like to be without, and to look around you and see everybody else look like they're prospering, or maybe they are prospering, and you feel like, okay, my situation is already dead. My situation is already low. It's important to know it's okay to get help. Yeah. There are, and I have the number and I can share it later. There's a 24/7 support line that Texas has established. They have licensed individuals that are manning the phone all day, all night for individuals to call in. A lot of insurances are waiving co-pays for you to go and get therapy and get counseling. It's important for us to let our kids know that it is not it's not shameful, and it's not a bad thing to talk to someone and allow someone to help you process and get past the pain and the hurt that you're experiencing.
I also think that we need to think about the reality of 3 years ago, these kids went through Hurricane Harvey. So this is not just COVID-19. Right. COVID-19 is going to last a lot longer, but there were seniors 3 years ago that didn't get to graduate from their schools. They got shipped all over the state and all over the country. School districts that shut down where they took the direct hit from Hurricane Harvey. So there are a lot of things. I think that when we start dealing with our children, I know that when we drive in the car, sometimes, I think back that time my son might have been about 6 or 7. When it's heavy rain, he's asking the question, is it going to flood out there? That doesn't make my baller a weak guy. That makes my baller say, hey, man, I recognize that this place flooded. Yeah. And, are we going to be all right? So I think that we have to look at the cumulative things, Hurricane Harvey and its effects, and now COVID-19, and look at the amount of things that this group has gone through. But oftentimes, those difficult things are what make you stronger, your ability to get through it, see through it, and check out God's perspective in it. And I think that as I go back to Joseph makes the comment later on in life, as Pastor was saying earlier, when you get past this, you're going to be able to say, you sold me here, but God sent me here. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good.
That's
and
good,
I think that's the thing, is for us to be able not to just look at what we see going on physically, but what is God doing spiritually, so that we can have his spectacles and his opticals, so that we can see what God is doing.
Yes.
That's real good. And I think also, I think there's comfort in our community. These kids are isolating themselves just because of everything that's going on. We're already self-isolated just because we can't go outside. But with technology, I think they also have to build their communities, whether that's FaceTiming each other, whether that's getting on the old party line like we used to have back in the day, and just talking things out. Because sometimes we all understand the best thing that you can do is talk to your peer, because your parent, an adult, may not understand exactly how you're feeling. But when you can talk to a peer that's going through a similar situation, not only can they encourage each other, but just letting each other know you're not by yourself. I'm feeling it too. And so, how do we just promote that opportunity? We don't want our kids to feel alone. So, how do we just promote that they just share their thoughts with one another?
I think we give them that freedom. This is all of us from the call remember the world before Facebook, before social media and FaceTime. And I think, but this generation doesn't know the world before those things existed. And so I think we allow them to leverage those tools. I know, many of us, those of us around teenagers, it's always put your phone down. But I think in this scenario, it's a lifeline. It's their resource, but they can talk to people who speak their language, who see the world from their perspective. And so I think, taking notes, writing, blogging. You don't have to go on Facebook Live, but you can simply record a video of your own thoughts and do your own video diary. Using the TikToks and Instagrams in a healthy way. I still think parents need oversight, but giving them that space to engage, because socialization is a major thing with a teenager, and you don't get that. You don't even have the privacy to talk to your friends, because if you share a room with your little brother or sister, now you and your homegirl can't even have that conversation you would have had at lunch. And so I think for the teenagers, respecting, you need some space to be a teen right now. So let me give you a little bit of that, because you can't leave the house. So I'm still here, but give them some space so that you don't hear every conversation they have. So that you don't hear, as a parent, I don't want to be in the room every time you talk. I'm listening, but I'm giving you some space where you don't feel so confined, because if you don't have a multiple bedroom house, a teenager can start to feel a little choked up, like I can't express myself in here because Mama Clark don't play that. So I think you got to give them that space in this season to have those social outlets.
And Pastor Wilson, I'll throw this one to you. Another question from a parent. And they're stating, I am on my last, and I'll leave out the rest. I'll just switch it with nerve. But they're saying that they're at their last wit's end, to the point that they're feeling overwhelmed, but they can't stop because they have to take care of their kids. What can you say? What can you share with them?
Was this a single parent?
Yes.
I think it's tremendously tough, but I think that Pastor Burleson gave a answer earlier. You got to get that strength from above, and this is biblical and practical, because the Bible is practical. But the Bible talks about in 1 Peter 4:8-12 that allow us to serve with the strength that God supplies. Oftentimes when we've come to our end, it's because we've been in our own strength. But the strength that God supplies is trusting in Him to give us that extra when we don't have anything in the tank. And so I think that there's a time of communion and prayer that Be anxious for nothing, but in all things through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known. God, I'm at my wit's end. God, talk to God honestly and openly. Speak to him, pray to him, ask God to fill you, ask God to refresh you. And even when you're at that end and don't know how, watch God supply. I think that we have to, as Christians, drive ourselves into the Word of God and see there are a lot of times in the Bible where people were ready to give up. The widow who's preparing to make the last meal for her son, and then they're going to die. And God sends Elijah their way. And then Elijah says something crazy. Give me the food first, and then watch God supply for you. I think that we have to watch God in this moment by depending on that strength that comes from above to give us the ability. And that's where we move out of Bible stories to Bible application. That this is a real live story that I'm asking God based on this story, and my prayer based on this word. God, I need this strength that she had when she was ready to give up. God, would you give that strength to me? And that's where, I played quarterback, and I believe in the playbook. I believe that I play point guard. I believe in the playbook, and I'm a pastor now. I believe in the playbook. I believe that God doesn't give you a book for it to be philosophical. I believe that God gives you a book to be practical. And so I would really drive into I need the strength that God supplies.
And if I could add tag on to that, I think for that mom that asked that question as well, it's important from the clinical perspective to think about what you're thinking about. Your thoughts, our thoughts in this moment, in what is happening right now, are playing a huge role in our feelings.
Yes.
And it is a known fact that what you think about produces feelings, and what you feel produces actions.
Yeah.
And so if you're constantly in the mindset of replaying all the negativity that's going on, you're going to keep sinking lower and lower and lower. And eventually the loneliness of those feelings is going to, in some situations, push you to make a negative decision or make a negative choice, because you've gotten so consumed with those negative thoughts. And so it's important to find things that can bring hope, but also to make sure that you are challenging yourself to to think outside of what is happening, although that may be very difficult. There are people who are watching this right now, their phone is going to ring tomorrow and they're going to get laid off. There are people who are watching this right now, they're going to get a phone call that somebody that they know is in the hospital. And so those we know those things are going to happen. However, when they happen, it's important for us to be in the mindset of, God, I don't have any control over this. I can't fix it. I can't. Even if I had all the money in the world, we see now it doesn't matter if you're rich, from the richest to the rich to the poor to the poor. This is impacting everybody.
Yes.
And so it's important, to make sure that we are taking control of those thoughts, and really seeking the help for people. If we don't know how to do that, that we seek the help that we need in order for someone to help us learn how to do that and create some positive coping skills.
Right. And so another question that came through is, and we know that close quarters can either bring connectiveness or chaos. And so one of the questions that came through is, how do I mend some of the family issues that existed prior to and build upon what we have now?
That's a good one.
That's good. I think we're in a pressure situation. I know I remember growing up when I first discovered cologne, like in 4th or 5th grade. I had this novel idea that if I just sprayed cologne on, I didn't have to go bathe, so I could just put cologne on and then go play. And then after I played and got hot, I discovered that the cologne didn't really cover up anything, because once you get heat, the real essence is really going to come out. And so as the world has heated up, and we're in close quarters and this pressure is on, a lot of things are going to start coming to the surface in marriages and relationships. And I think you've got to thank God because He's revealing stuff. And I think it's a time for having honest conversations. You know, one, I think of the Spirit is patience. So definitely you need to pray for the fruit of the Spirit, because you need to walk in patience and love and self-control and forgiveness and long suffering. I think we all need to pray for the fruit of the Spirit, but at the same time, if you find, hey man, what's this tension I'm seeing between siblings? What is this tension I'm seeing? I think it's a great time to talk about it. You know, we don't have anywhere else to go. It's kind of like the parent who put their kids in a t-shirt and said, y'all gonna stay connected till you figure it out. And I think God is giving some families this moment where you're away from everything else, and now, you know, you got to deal with you. And I say embrace it. You know, there's a lot of things that's gonna come up, you know, but I think embrace it and clean that stuff up, you know, because we've been covering a lot of stuff up with fragrance of life, and now we got to deal with it head on.
Yeah, that's good. Pastor Wilson.
Oh no, I'm gonna tag what he said.
Nah, that's good.
I am. I agree with that.
Nah, that's good. That was real good. And I know we've been having a heavy conversation tonight, but just to lighten it up a little bit, another question that came through is, we done tried cooking, we done played in the backyard, we done played board games. I'm running out of ideas. Help me.
Man, I'll jump. Discovered a new app. We discovered a new app. What is it called?
House Party.
House Party. You know, House Party. It's the app you can download. It's free. You can play games online with your friends. Just, you know, everybody doing the TikTok videos, the videos, y'all know all that. Man, I think just you gotta remember to have fun and live your life. Don't let Corona steal your joy. You know, I think you know the body. We learned, you know, the joy that we have. The world didn't give it to us, and so therefore the world can't take it away. And you gotta remember that. Joy of the Lord is your strength. And so don't let Trump and stimulus checks and all this stuff steal your joy, you know, and find that. And now you're going to find joy outside of those things. You know what I'm saying? Discover new habits. One thing I've been doing I don't know how long it's been going on. I've been running. And I don't run. But the gym is an outlet for me. You know, I go to the gym 3-4 times a week, and not being able to go to the gym and train and get that outlet, I immediately begin to say, I got to find something else that's going to push me physically. So I've been running, you know, 4 miles, 4.5 miles, you know, every other day to create that newness. And so I think you got to, you know, do the things you thought you couldn't do, you know, do some kettlebell, do some running, just find a new, you know, find a new.
And I think some of the things that we talk about, take it back to the basics. Like, we so worried about technology these days. We had the little game, paper football. You make your little football out of paper, and we have a game going on. Pull out them old jacks, hopscotch, get
tic-tac-toe.
There you go. Tic-tac-toe, checkers, all that good stuff. And so sometimes you have to take it back to those days when you were in Big Mama house and all you had was your imagination, and you had the best time ever. Pastor Wilson?
My wife actually hit me up on Facebook today because there was a little girl who had in their driveway just took some chalk and did all the hopscotch jumping and all that. But it wasn't just the regular jump here. It was a long course. And so I think that even if we say we don't have, if I live in an apartment and I don't live in a so-called house, I still can go outside and I can still, you know, take some chalk and draw something up and just create a game and have some fun. But I also think that parents during this time, one of my guys on my end in my watch party, he says, haha, yes, man, House Party app is the business. You know, so I think that we got to find out, like my daughter introduced me to some deal. She said, Dad, download this. And I'm like, I ain't trying to download that. And she's like, download this, Dad. And so then we were playing this game from her phone to my phone. I'm making moves on my phone. I don't know what I had downloaded, you know, but in order to engage her, and that's what she and her friends are doing, you know, we were on it. So I think that it's just open up, have fun, and, you know, and enjoy. My wife and I, we've ordered, like I said, you know, the badminton net. We ordered the Connect Four, all kind of games, playing, movie watching, different things. but engage your family because you're never going to get this time back.
Right.
Make the most of it. And I think that as Pastor Burleson said earlier, yeah, there may be some chaos, but there may be some connectivity. And how do I get past, hey, we haven't even had a chance to sit down and talk? Because I know that, when my wife and I are trying to have an adult conversation, we have two very active kids and they're talking. I'm like, hey, man, we can't have our conversation. Now it's late. We're trying to go to sleep. But now we got all day to talk. And so we can steal away time to have those conversations and address issues. And, people have been asking me, they say, Pastor Blake, how you doing, man? We know you're an extrovert. We know you're an extrovert. How you doing? I got a member that's hit me today. We know you're extrovert. I said, I like the people that I'm quarantined with. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so I like my wife. I like my kids. So I'm having a good time. And I think we got to look at it like that.
And it's a great time to learn new stuff. Like, it's a great time to teach sons how to cut hair. If they mess up, it'll grow back by the time they go back to school.
And it's time that your wife cut hair too. He won't let me cut his hair. I've been trying to cut his hair.
I'm waiting for Pastor Cassandra to get into that beard.
Hey, King David, don't let her cut you. Don't let her cut your hair, King David.
Lord. But it's a great time to teach how to cook. We talked about cooking. Everybody's been cooking. Everybody on Facebook is a chef. Man, pass those skills down. I think
right.
Grandma, Medea, Big Mama, I remember watching her cook, and I don't know because some of our parents got busy and were working and we didn't have that kitchen time. It's a great time to teach your daughters how to cook, teach your sons how to shave, change oil. Just let them do stuff, let them learn how to cut the grass. That may not be their thing, but let them just learn and make family time, find family time in everything,
My wife had my son make the cornbread the other day. And I mean, my wife does a good job with cornbread. I don't have any problem with her cornbread. But I don't know what type of anointing and Holy Ghost oil he put in the cornbread. But this was the best cornbread. I was like, now, baby, he got you now. Don't make the cornbread no more.
Pastor Wilson, we live now. You can't go back and take it back later.
Yeah. But, one of the things is that it was funny because he made the comment. He said, Mom, he said, when I get married, now he's 9. When I get married, my wife ain't going to have to make the cornbread because I got the cornbread down. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yeah, you got it, bro. One of the persons on my feed said we played marbles the other day. So, you order you some marbles, so.
Spades, dominoes.
Come on now. And I think it's just being that adventure. I saw this video the other day.
Crazy eight.
Ooh, hearts. Come on, now we talking. But I saw this video the other day that I thought was phenomenal. I think the young man was
take some of their allowance money.
Now they talking about Tonkin Petty Pat. There was this young man on video the other day. I want to say he was maybe 3 years old. Real into wrestling and the American Ninja and all that good stuff. His parents literally set up an obstacle course in the house with furniture. They just moved some furniture around, made him an obstacle course, and for an hour looked like he had a ball. So I think it's just using our imagination, thinking outside the box, and just like y'all said, just having fun with the ones that you're inside with. We almost at that time before we get out of here, though. We talked about it a little bit earlier, and I'll start with Pastor David and Cassandra Berkeley. Just resources for our parents, resources for our kids. What's out there to help those that need it?
I'll share the number that I was mentioning earlier, that Texas has released this support helpline that's 24/7. The phone number is 833-986-1919. And basically,
one more time, Pastor Cassandra.
It's 833-986-1919. And basically, if you're just feeling anxious or you're feeling overwhelmed, you just need someone to talk to, it's a 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week support line for you to call. It's confidential. Nobody will ever know that you call. It's important to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and have an outlet. You have an outlet if you don't feel like you have one. That's an outlet for you.
Sure, you're right. Pastor Wilson, I see you got an honored guest. That's what I'm talking about. Look
here, man. My man Robert Chan say, "Hey, man, I need you to come on, let my dad go so we can get into this Batman championship."
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before we let you out of here,
I'm gonna wear him out. I don't let him get any wins. He got to earn every W.
Sure, you're right. Before you get out of here, Pastor Wilson, any resources that you know that may be available to our parents and to our kids?
To be honest, off the top of my head, I'm not for sure, but I know that I can put some stuff up. My wife is the resource knowledgeable person. I know that our church has some stuff that we've been putting online, but on the top of my head, I would do it an injustice.
But I do know
So
one resource that you are very familiar with. Please tell us about your church, physical location, online presence, all that good stuff. Let people know how they can find you.
Yeah, Crossover Bible Fellowship. We are on the north side of town, 12332 Perry Road, Houston, Texas, 77070. You can find us on Facebook at the Crossover Bible Fellowship Facebook page. We go live at Bible study, the Emmaus Experience on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock, and then worship service 8:30 and 10:30 on Sundays, and then also 5:30 and 7:30 Sunday evening. We also have the Crossover Bible Fellowship app that you can download to your phone, either device, Samsung or iPad. iPhone. So the Crossover Bible Fellowship app, you can download that there, and you'll be in good shape. So,
Pastor David and Cassandra Berkeley, please tell us about where we can find you.
You guys can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Ship of Faith. You can also go to our website, shipoffaith.com. We're located in Highland Clark, right across the street from Madison High School in West Orleans.
amen.
Yep, from the Clark. Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. You can follow us on Facebook. We go live every Sunday at 10 a.m. There's a relevant word from God. So if you want to come and kick it with some ordinary people, but get a relevant word, we'd love to see you at our church.
Amen.
And I just want to share as well, I am a licensed clinical social worker and provide telehealth services. So if there's someone who is looking for therapy, you can check out our website, morethancope.com. The insurance information and all of that is listed there. But if anyone out there needs some support or even some additional referrals, you can definitely look me up, and I will do my best to provide you with those resources.
Amen. Amen. And I truly just want to thank y'all. I truly believe that God is sending the right people at the right time. So I just thank y'all for just taking the time. Pastor Wilson is bringing in the whole family. Got his tribe with him today. So good seeing y'all. And just, man, I really appreciate y'all. Again, this has been From the Pulpit to the People. Thank y'all. Make sure y'all reach out to the Fellowship of Faith, Crossover Bible Fellowship, and we'll see y'all next week. Thank y'all so much.
Love y'all. Love y'all. Nice
Take care now. Be good.
All right. God bless.
God bless.